Welcome to this episode of the Elite Advisor Podcast. I'm Sten Morgan. Today we're going to be hanging out with Carl Richards. I'm really excited about this episode just to have a conversation with Carl. He has so much experience, has created so much content, has a great story, a great journey. So I know you will get great things from it. Let's talk to Carl. Carl, thanks for being here.
Sten, super excited to talk to you.
Yeah, heard a lot, obviously tractor stuff. And so shout out to Michael for Kitsis for connecting us and making it happen.
Yeah, of course. All good things flow through Michael.
That's right. Yes. So one thing I love asking, you have a lot going on. You've experienced a lot. I'm super thankful that you're generous with sharing content in a lot of different ways. But as of today, what gets you most excited right now? What are you working on?
Yeah, such a kind question. The first thing that comes to mind is like deep conversations with people I enjoy talking to. You know, like I've just only recently, by recently I mean the last 5 years, realized that like everything I'm doing are just like the sketches are just a tool for conversation. The books are just tools for conversations. The retreats we do at my house, just tools for conversation. So I just love having conversations with people about what matters, which is why I love the work that real financial planners or advisors do. Is, you know, money is just a portal. It's just a tool into what really matters for people. So I would answer that question. If I had to answer it with one word, I would say conversations.
Nice.
Yeah.
What, with your experience, and obviously you get to interact with a lot of different people around our realm. Most of our audience are active financial advisors, leadership in our space. When I hear you explain essentially what you just said and the way you said it, there was like a calmness to it, almost like I've figured this new place out. What's been kind of the path to that, to where most people wouldn't answer the question that way. So I'd love some backstory to that.
Yeah, well, that makes me happy that it feels that way. Because it feels that way to me too. It feels a little settled. It feels like often we can feel a bit like the snow globe is all shook up and there's, you know, and I'm starting to feel like the snow is starting to settle a bit and I can see my work a little more clearly. And, but what led to that was a lot of experiments, a lot of being wrong. I think it's the same thing that leads to the work that advisors do when they find clients that finally say, you know, like I don't worry about that anymore. And I think there's a lot of living in wrongness, which I'm not scared of. I just think that's reality. And so I guess what, maybe to break it down, it would be, I had an idea of something I wanted to do. I slowly learned that was nothing more than a strong opinion loosely held. And I learned have a strong opinion and then hold on to it loosely because new information is going to show up and you're going to change your mind. So I had a thing I thought I wanted to do, started taking this after I figured out that thinking about how to get there and having big goals, after I found out that that's mostly a place to hide, like if I can just hide behind a YouTube video of searching for one more YouTube video about how to deadlift, I don't ever have to go to the gym and deadlift. So once I figured out that, I was like, okay, what really matters is small little action steps. I would take a small little action step towards what I thought was the goal, and then I would get new information and it would tell me that I was wrong. So I'd course correct, and I've been course correcting for so long that I'm really comfortable in that process. And I think it's the same work we do with clients. Oh, you think you want a sailboat and $5 million. That's super interesting and really specific. How did we get there? Have you ever been on a sailboat? What if you went out for an hour? You know, like we just, humans, we want to know the end from the beginning, and we want to get to the summit without ever taking one foot out of the car. And so I think just that tension between goal of summit, take one foot out of the car, I've been really comfortable with that tension. So that's sort of what's behind it, to now feel like I'm really settled in the idea that I have a guess. I think it's about conversations, speaking really broadly. Okay, how would those show up? Oh, maybe I should start a podcast. Maybe we should do a retreat at the house. And my wife would say, what are we going to talk about? I said, I don't know. Well, should we wait until we know exactly what we're going to talk? No, let's just invite people. Like, let's just get moving. So that's kind of how that process has happened.
Yeah, that brings up in me, in my story, this like iterate. We use like iterate. It's almost like your first version. I hold space for like it was your best try. I think of when I was in my 20s, the advisor in me was just like, hit your numbers, winning gets you recognition. It was doing something in me that maybe wasn't the most healthy driver, but it was getting results. And then in my 30s, I'm like, wait, maybe this isn't sustainable. Like maybe the thing I was shooting for wasn't really what I wanted. And now you get to a point where I'm just like, the process is changing me. And as long as I stay in the arena and don't, jump in the stands, like I think that process just keeps happening. And it's uncomfortable, but I think it for me, it's less uncomfortable than it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I love the idea of like, I have a friend who calls it picking a stupid human trick. So he's like, every year I pick a stupid human trick. It could be like being able to do the splits. It could be like running 100-mile marathon. Like, it doesn't really matter what the stupid human trick is. Because the stupid human trick just becomes a forcing function for you to become the kind of person that does those things. So this friend at age 46 sold a technology business, and he wanted to become, he'd noticed that his attention had been so fractured, by social media, and he couldn't sit. And he was like, I want to become the kind of person who thinks deeply about one subject. He's like, but I'm not now.
Yeah.
So the current version of me has to die, and this new version has to be born. And he's like, what would be a good forcing function? Who are the kind of people? And he's like, what if I go get my PhD? He's like, I don't care about getting my PhD.
Yeah.
I care about becoming the kind of person who can think deeply about a single problem.
Wow.
And I love that. And I like, I've had stupid human tricks that are like way beyond my physical abilities. Like, I'm going to go run this crazy ridge in the mountains near the house I live. I'm like, there's no way I can do that now.
No.
But 6 months from now, and I have to convince myself that running the ridge matters a lot. Like, I got to hold on to that goal. I got to trick my brain and my heart into realizing that I'm totally committed to it. But there's a little voice in my head that's like, and what I actually care about this is the process of becoming the type of person who's disciplined enough to do the work. So if I actually never run the ridge, it's kind of okay, but don't tell the other side of my brain that, So yeah, I love that idea of just, if we can just start seeing these as forcing functions to change us, it doesn't really matter if we meet the specific goal, even though holding onto the goal really tightly is kind of part of the trick. So anyway, I love that. And again, the cool thing about the work we do is, if you want to become a better financial planner, become a better human.
Yeah.
And everything you do to become a better human helps you in the work you do with your advisor. So like, it's with your clients. So it's so great that these are dual purpose conversations, right?
Yeah. The framework that I've finally got pulled out of myself, because when I started doing this coaching thing, I was a pretty successful advisor. And I was like, hey, I think I want to talk to people about it. I like hanging out with other advisors and learning from them. But I realized like I had no framework, and people needed some structure to like, what do I need to focus on? And so what I found out in my story was like this idea of resistance, that like, man, when you wake up, like for some reason, success or my future self wasn't like this self-fulfilling passive activity. I think there's something, and this is the War of Art book, where it's like, I think there's something acting against that thing that I want. And my job is to wake up and push back in different ways. When I use the word resistance, like, what does that bring up in you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very familiar with Stephen's work, Pressfield's work. So I think, it's super interesting to me. Like, somewhere along the line, we kind of, because being comfortable and easy, everything being easy and comfortable is so easy now, we've sort of missed the plot. Like, there's a huge piece of my life is designed intentionally to be inefficient and hard. Like, why do you do that? That's so because it's hard. Like that's the whole reason, right? Like, and I think that's what I think of when I think of resistance is like, okay, how do you get stronger? Well, you get stronger through training that involves resistance,
Mhm.
right? How do you accomplish anything? Well, anything you set out to do that doesn't involve just staying in homeostasis all the time will involve resistance. So I almost never in the airport, if there's a choice between walking and the moving walkway, I am absolutely not on the moving walkway. If there's a choice between escalator and stairs, I'm going to take the stairs. The place I'm staying in now, there's a stairway. Like those are just little training moments.
Mm.
And like the areas where I feel like I need more resistance is how often I check the phone. Right now, if there's a choice between checking the phone and not checking the phone, like I'll do 100 of these. By the time we're done with the book, we've had 50 in the last 4 weeks. So like today, there's 10 minutes between them.
Yeah.
And I love these conversations. But the question is, in those 10 minutes, if there's a choice between sitting quietly, which is what I need to do, and checking my phone, right now, I'm sad to admit, I'm checking my phone more often than I want to. So I have an active goal. This is Andrew Huberman. Everybody loves the Hubes. He has a goal of like, can I say no to the phone 10 times a day? Well, that's resistance.
Yeah.
Right? Like how many no's can I rack up to the phone? Well, that's resistance, you know? So like when I hear resistance, I just think, let's go. Do you know what I mean? Like that, I get excited about it, except there's areas in my life where people are like, oh yeah, that's cute. You say, let's go on the stairs and you say, let's go on speaking, but you're still checking your phone. And by the way, you're probably going to eat some garbage. Like, okay, so I need to be better about those areas of resistance too.
Is there a part of you that is like kind of guilt yourself into better behavior, or are you at a place where you're like, I hold space for these areas that are not where they need to be?
You know, I think I need to be really careful. I have historically been, there's been a little too much guilt, and even more shame. And I'm trying to be more aware of when I'm operating from that place. And all that really is just a slight rewiring, right? Like the actual behavior the intended behavior may remain the same. It's just a slightly different route to it of like, oh, wait. You're doing that right now out of embarrassment or shame or guilt. What if you just take a minute? And again, like to me, this is what's so cool about the profession is this is exactly the same work you're going to have with clients. Like I'm feeling a little bit like I want to go spend some money or I want to buy a piece of real estate. I mean, this is an actual example. We were recently on a trip to where we go every summer up in the mountains in the Teton Mountain Range. It's like 4 hours from our house. We've been going there every summer forever. And we take our kids. It's sort of like a gathering spot. And I was looking at real estate up there. I was like, hey, we need to buy a lot up here so we can build a house someday. And one of my kids was like, hey, don't you have some other really important financial goals? Because they knew that we were trying to pay down some housing debt. And somebody else in the family said, why do you always get caught up in these, like, they actually called it like living in fantasy land. Somebody in my family. And I was like, ooh. And then another one of my kids said, wait, when I talked about how that hurt a little bit,
yeah,
and they were right. Like, you're right. We have some goals we need to stay disciplined about. And thanks for calling me out on it. But boy, that, like, I felt a little bit of shame. I felt a little bit of embarrassment. Can we talk about this? We got some of the kids together and talked a bit about, I have all adult kids and we love these conversations. I mean, and somebody else in the family said, wait, isn't this your job? Like talking about money. And I was like, yeah, it is my job. And I still feel embarrassed or shamed and so I think just noticing that feeling, we can reroute it and say, oh, what if we came at this from a slightly different angle? Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think that's really important work to do. And I've still got a ton of it to do.
So when you talk to or interact with financial advisors, I mean, there's obviously it'd be great. Read all your stuff and jump the line. Know the stuff that Carl knows now. I think what we're saying is the process is almost necessary to some degree. But to the 20, 30-year-old grinding advisor at this point, the industry is kind of saying, win the trips, grow the AUM, and you're doing great. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would just say, like, even if you could skip the line to know what Sten knows or know what Carl knows or know what Michael Kitces knows, you shouldn't. You should figure out what you know. Right? I remember this. My book agent, who's a rock star, like sort of like Devil Wears Prada style, like, don't call me, I'll call you. Kind of like, I was just so lucky to even be working with her, and she really changed my life. And I remember we were talking about writing another book, and she was like, and I said, I can't write like a Ron Lieber book, like this amazing piece of narrative nonfiction that like self-help, like just so good, or a James Clear book, or a Malcolm Glass. I would say things like that to her one day. And one day she got a little bit mad at me and said, nobody wants that from you. What they want you to write is a Carl Richards book.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, well, that really sucks, because I don't know what that means exactly. Yeah. Like, awesome, because it's like, that's great, but I don't even know what it means. So that's what I would say to somebody is like, there's an old Lao Tzu saying, be who you really are and go the whole way. And so I would just start experimenting with, what does it mean to be you? Like, and then if specifically you asked about 35-year-old grinding, like, just, I think there's a time and a place, and maybe 35 years old is exactly the time and place to be sort of hustling. But I just wish somebody had pulled me aside and said, hey man, it's going to be okay. And don't forget to rest a bit. Like, the time outside. I wish somebody had pulled me aside and told me what I know now, which is time for me. Time outside. It could be the art museum. It could be like whatever. But for me, time in the mountains is not a reward for hustling. It's a prerequisite for continuing to hustle.
Nice.
I wish somebody had told me that earlier, and I didn't have to end up burned out and, sort of broken human.
Yeah. I do feel, since I get to spend a lot of time with advisors and I have my story, that our industry does not do a great job at, and maybe this is intentional, because if we knew, we wouldn't get into the business. But hey, here's what's about to happen. And there's a few ways you can go about it. If left unchecked, the industry momentum is going to take you down this path. Call your 200 closest friends, sell them stuff, eventually learn about the product while you go. Someday you're going to look back and be like, man, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have done that then. And if you just don't give up, maybe eventually someday you'll be successful. And I think that's the path I came in on.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that somebody would have told me, whether I would have received it or not at the time, like, there are other options. Like, that there's ways that are still challenging, but maybe will get you to your full potential faster. And that includes things like emotional intelligence, communication training. And you said just a better human.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think where I happened to land and bounce around as a young advisor, like, that was considered.
Right. Me neither. I mean, my hope is that that's changing a bit, but I still think it's a huge problem. Like, changing a bit, I mean, like, maybe there was 1% of it back 25 years ago or even 10 years ago, and now there's 5% or 10%. Like, it's still a huge problem. And I think, right, that suggestion to sort of be who you really are and go the whole way, that's a really messy process still in our industry, probably in most industries, to be honest, most professions. Like, my daughter's in med school, and all the conversations she hears from, the older doctors about residency and work, like, it's still broken. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's probably most industries or most professions. But if you can sort of maybe keep one eye, like, don't, while you're in the system, realize that you're going to keep one eye on all the ways to get yourself outside of the system. right? And it may just be that, and if you're lucky, you might find those ways fast.
Yeah.
But just keep like, and I often like a friend of mine, the same friend actually who got his PhD, told me that he used to say to the older like guys when they'd come around with their stupid old ways, like the traditional stuff, he would say like, don't feed them. Like, don't say to them like, I'm going to change the system. No, just say head down doing research. So like like when I was coming up, that would be like, oh, just head down cold calling.
Yeah.
And maybe even as they walked by, I would do it with two phones, but I wasn't really doing any of it.
Yeah.
I was more just over here. And then, and keeping in mind that you got to earn permission to stick around.
That's right.
So whatever that, like, it's just, man, there's a bunch of tension embedded into the system, and embrace the tension, but keep your eyes on, don't believe them. Do not believe them that there's no other way. You can always say like, you're noticing, I don't like that way. I don't like that way. Well, don't have it beaten out of you. Remember that like when I can, and you're going to get little incrementally, you're going to get more and more permission to do it your way. And if you get successful, I remember this, like I sold cars right in school once. I worked at the Toyota dealership, and I was like my second month, I was the top performing new hire. And that's because I was doing it my way. And then they came and made me do all the ways they want. I was like, just leave me alone. So sometimes you can get yourself little incremental permission to just sort of do it your own way. But you can also play the game where you're just like, like my old version, like head down, just making cold calls.
Yeah.
Right. So live in that tension, keep your eyes open. Don't believe them. Don't give up. Don't believe them that you can't do it the way you want to do it. And don't believe them.
Yeah. When you say the word system, and I think about your daughter being in med school, I think there's some element of just saying I am in a system and the system's not perfect. And I think that's like our healthcare system, our food system, our media system. And I think there's this, I'm at least the people I'm listening to, there's this awareness now of, hey, maybe this isn't what it seems. Maybe the system, whether intentionally or unintentionally, has gotten to a place to where it doesn't have my best interest in mind. I can't blindly follow it.
No, I agree completely. Like, look, there's that old, is it Krishnamurti's quote that it's no sign of health to be well adapted to an unhealthy system. Right. And I think the game we got to play here is decide, like, are we going to rail against the system? And for some people, that's the right answer. Like, this is the approach I've actually taken, because I've got friends who have gotten a little mad at me for speaking at certain places. Like if I get invited to speak at one of the bad places, however you define that, and we sort of have this little way of defining it when we're independent fiduciary, like that place is bad, I say yes. Because I view it as like they've invited me to speak there. Can I move? I mean, there's a great example of this. I don't want to get specific. So anyway, I got invited to speak someplace that had a huge sales force, huge number of advisors. And I was shocked they invited me. And many of my friends would have been like, there's no way. And I think taking a small number of people 100% the way there is a valiant thing, like awesome, if that's what you're after. But what if I could take a huge number of people 10% there?
Yeah.
Like, or 10% of a huge number, 100% there. Like, I'm just like, so I think my point here is you have to decide, can you navigate the system without getting eaten by it? Can you navigate the system, play within the system, work your way up, because you're going to have massive influence? Or is it best just to separate yourself because that's the only way you can see to survive? Those are both totally valid options.
That's fair.
But recognize you're in a system, and it will most likely eat you if you don't pay attention. Like sometimes I say to myself, like, it's cute you think you can outsmart the system. So it's like, keep that in your head. Like it's cute that you think. Now, what that should remind you of is like, be vigilant. Remember who you are, have a spouse or partner who reminds you, like when I get home from speaking engagements, like this started happening 15 years ago. Like I'd show up at the airport in South Africa, there would be a person there with my name, like when you walk down the stairs at the airport, and I'd drive you in a car and whatever. And I would get home and my wife would be, hey, the dog took a crap in the backyard, go clean it up. And then she'd be like, and there's nobody here with a name on your sign. Like, we love you. We're so glad you're home, but you're home now, brother. You know what I mean? Like having somebody remind you of like, cute that you think you're that in the system, but remember, don't get eaten by it, right?
Oh yeah. I remember reading some like Marcus Aurelius, and it was the generals were somewhat of like gods back then. Obviously, all the power, and at the time somebody would stand behind them and be like, "You're human." Like, don't
yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, we all
so
need to be reminded sometimes.
So good, yeah, so good.
Man, what if as we wrap up for our listeners, I know, would you mention your book that's about to drop and where people can go check it out? Because the simplicity of it, and I've said this before, simplicity is a gift. And the communication skill set that I think advisors are not focusing on, like that should actually be a superpower for us, because at times I've found what stops somebody from potentially taking action is my ability to communicate the urgency or the benefit of taking action. So if you touch on that, but then also kind of mention your book, because it's a fun read, cool format.
Yeah, let me just maybe I can tell you a little story about sort of what you mentioned made me think of this, and we've talked a bit about this idea of like tension, living in the system without getting eaten by the system, having, a bit of shame or embarrassment or blame around our behavior, wanting to change our behavior. There's like a lot of tension in all that. And there's tension in wanting to be elegantly simple, but not too simplistic. Those are different things. Wanting to like help clients understand, and then the fear of thinking that maybe if they understand too much, they won't need you anymore. Like there's a lot of tension in there. And I love to like work on those ideas and try to narrow it down. And this book is the first time I really gave myself permission to be who I really am and go the whole way. Like in past books, I've tried to be, other people. And not, I didn't really know that. But this book, I care about every single word. Now, there's mistakes, I'm sure. I'll find mistakes. I'm sure I'm going to find things I want to improve. But as of right now, every word, every line, the way the book was designed, I mean, this is crazy. The editor, the publisher I said, hey, is there any way we could move all that front matter, the copyright and the legal stuff and all, is there any way we could move that to the back? So the moment you open the book, you're in service of the reader. I was like, I just want everything to serve the reader. And they were like, you know what? We've never done that. And why not? And they did. They moved all the front. So like everything about it, the 7x7 format, square, the soft cover instead of a hard cover was intentional. It's not paperback, but it's soft cover. It's like this nice, thick, matte finish. I wanted that to feel very approachable. Like use it, hand it around, dog ear it, like it's meant to be used. But there's one line I just want to talk about as we wrap up that I worked on there are single words in some of the sketches that I've removed that have been bothering me for 10 years. Right? Like there's one, in fact, on the focus sketch, that's a Venn diagram. Some people get mad at me calling it the Venn diagram. Police have sent me long emails about it. So it's a circle sketch, but you can think of it as a Venn diagram. It says what things that matter, things I can control, what I try to, the overlap of things that matter and what I can control is labeled what I try to focus on. Well, that used to say things you can control and what you should focus on. There's thousands of those things hung up on people's walls in that format. it always bothered me that it said should, that I was trying to be prescriptive. My work is it's more an adventure journal than it is a self-help book. And so I changed it to what I can control. And then the bottom says what I try to focus on.
Nice.
That's the level of work here
Yeah.
that I'm really stoked about. And so it's 101 sketches, 101 essays. Some of the essays are 2 sentences, but none of them will take you more than 4 minutes. The entire goal of the book was to be a conversation grenade, back to your earlier question. Like, you toss it in a room and conversations break out. Like, you leave this on the coffee table, leave this in your conference room, and when you come in after the receptionist has sat them down, when you come in, they'll have the book open and be looking at it. And that's all I care about, is it's just a tool for us, real people giving real advice, to have the kind of conversations that we all want people to be having. So that's what the book's about.
Nice. I remember a quote. Can't remember who said it, but I would have written a shorter book, but I ran out of time.
That's exactly. It's sorry for the long letter. I didn't have time for a shorter one.
Oh, yep, that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time to write a simple.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. Again, there have been single words I've been thinking about for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely pre-order it, and we'll look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you, Sten.
All right, brother. Well, it was good hanging out.
Okay.
Talk soon.
Yep. Okay. See ya. Bye.
See you, buddy.